Hello and welcome to Loch Ness Living. This week on social media I was talking a lot about the dyeing that I'm doing with lichen, the process of collecting the different types of lichen, and then the kind of after process of fermenting and sitting for quite a long period of time before we can do dyeing with it. Now, we had a few questions about that, and I think just a little bit of interest, people wanting to see a little bit more. So I thought today I would bring you down into the corner of the house where I do the dyeing, sometimes with help from cats, not always. That's Freya. Yeah, and just show you the pots in action. So one of the ones that I had a lot of interest in was this one over here. Can see what I do is reuse any containers that I can where possible, and that's a big part of what I'm doing with Loch Ness Knitting, is to make sure that I am working in a way that is friendly to the world and the place that I live by reusing and recycling and reducing waste wherever possible. So in here I have some staghorn lichen, which we had some pictures of drying, and I had a still picture of this fermenting. Now, when I was talking about this fermenting on the channel, I was saying it's about 1 month in, and it will take another month for the colour to develop. So if you want to take a closer look at that, I'll bring it over. So this is staghorn lichen, which has been sitting in a weak ammonia solution for about 1 month. What's happened is the colour is just starting to come out, and first of all it's going quite a kind of dark reddy brown. As oxygen, heat, sunlight continues to work on that, it will begin to go more and more purple. So, but it will take at least 3 months to do that, and it's quite smelly as it happens as well. So I can have that in a jar, but I tend to just keep it in the pot, and I open it up for a couple of hours every now and again, or overnight, just to let that oxygenation happen. Put the lid back on, pop it on the window ledge over here, come back to it whenever I remember, a couple of days later, give it another quick stir and a quick talking to keep getting that rotation of oxygen going through it, but pretty much just leave it alone. But that whole tub of dye came from this much lichen. So it goes right down, and I think in traditional methods they used to actually grind this down to make a paste from it. I'm also not particularly picky with my lichen, so there's a bit of that is near the oak beard mixed through with the staghorn as well. So my colours are not going to be as bright and clear as some of the really traditional dyes, because I don't have 20 field hands helping me pick through and sort lichen. But it's a good starting point, and it's a nod and an homage to the traditional process, which I'm very respectful of, and there's a lot of variation in it that's going to come from my water supply, from the place where I've gathered my lichen, which is actually in my garden just outside. We live next to, pop that back, we live next to the A82, which is a busy road, which means we do have quite a lot of traffic on the road. Little things like that affect the makeup of lichen, you know, what's going into it, because they're quite good as I want to call them a plant, but I don't think anyone's really decided whether they are a plant or an animal or an algae or a bacterium, or what precisely lichens are other than themselves. But one thing we do know is that they are very sensitive to metals, and the metals that come out of car exhaust is something that they're particularly sensitive to, which is why lichens only really grow well in clean air areas. But that will also be that the lichen that grows in my garden is not as clean and as pure as the lichen that grows up on the mountainside. That said, do not go and collect lichen up on the mountainside, because it is for the most part endangered, even if you think that you see it commonly around this area. And you should only really collect from fallen branches. It is a slow living, slow growing organism, and we should look after it. Okay. The other question that I was asked this week is what the yarn looks like before and after it's dyed. I think that there's sometimes a little bit of confusion, maybe a little bit of nostalgia about dyeing and knitting and wool in general. I do not have a sheep. I would love to have a sheep, but I'm not allowed to have a sheep. So I am not shearing. I can see sheep from here actually over the road. I want those sheep. But no, I'm not shearing. I'm not spinning other than for my own pleasure. I buy my wool in hanks, which looks something like this. So a hank of wool, so you can see it's already spun into yarn. You would recognise that as wool. You could knit with it straight away. What I do is pre-soak it to get it nice and wet. Then apply it to the dye pot. I've got something brewing over here which is going to be dyed up later. This is some rhododendron leaves. And then that takes as long as it takes. Sometimes it's a couple of hours, sometimes it's overnight, depends what we've got going on in there. And then afterwards it comes out with colour applied, which is then rinsed and dried. So that's pretty much, that's just like the 3 stages of what we're actually doing with it, just to help clarify any kind of ideas of as to what else I'm doing in the stages. I'm not spinning, I'm not kind of making it up into little balls. I do occasionally make these yarn blanks, but this is for, so that's where I've knitted a piece up to dye directly onto it as if it was a canvas, like a work of art. But that's something very particular that I'm doing for a project. That's not something that I would normally be doing. It's very fresh. Yeah, so those are the 3 stages of kind of dyeing, and occasionally I have dye left over from a natural dyeing process. And what I just wanted again to emphasize, as part of the fact that I'm trying to reduce waste and use everything, is that when I have excess dye left over, the dyes that I'm choosing to make from my natural dyes can all be kept, and they get kept for up to a month, again in whatever container I've got to hand in the corner. It's cool, it's dark over there. I take off what I need when I need it, so I'm not pouring things down the sink, which I wouldn't do anyway, but that would be a waste of the beautiful natural dye that we've got. So we're trying to reuse and make the best use of everything possible. And that's a little look into the corner of the dye room. So thank you very much for joining me today. If you want more information on this, keep watching Instagram, because I'm going to be doing a lot of posts on natural dyeing over the next probably 3 weeks, as we've got some projects unfolding. And if you have any questions, just drop them on the YouTube channel comments, drop them on Instagram, or send me an email directly, and I'd be happy to talk more and tell you more about the process. Okay, thank you.